Welcome back, everyone, to the AAA, also known as the AAA podcast, where we talk everything from alcohol to recovery. I'm your host, Joe Van, along with the one and only,
The Darren G.
yeah, and we're
How's it
back for
going?
another episode. So we had very shyly hinted at what the next podcast or several podcasts might be around, and as we jump into it now, it'll become evident we are going to be talking about specific movies that might be revolving around the theme of alcoholism. So before getting into that, though, Darren and I were just talking about how we both kind of had the same issue, but we never really talked about it before. And Darren kind of
Yeah.
started specifically because of one of the movies that we reviewed. So I'll let you kind of fill everyone else in on what we were talking about there.
So basically, the two movies that we are going to be chatting about today is The Shining and Flight. Um, they are both amazing movies, but on two different genres, like two different ends.
Yeah. Very different movie.
However, I'm the type of person where I can't really watch like scary movies. I love thrillers and I love sci-fis, but just like movies with like things popping up and like being all creepy. The thing about The Shining is it just had a super eerie feeling. It was just filmed beautifully. The scenes were awesome. I invest myself into the movie, and now the movie's done. It's 5 a.m. I can't sleep. It's brutal. I'm just thinking about all these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, the one scene where the little boy is just like, I'm
Oh
like, oh,
yeah,
I can't sleep. I'm like,
yeah.
I can't get that out of my mind. And then he like turns the corner and it's like, oh, two little girl.
Yeah,
I'm like,
those
oh
girls.
no, I
Yes.
can't sleep. It's brutal for me.
Yeah,
So we were supposed to record our podcast yesterday, but
yeah.
I honestly just couldn't like recollect myself after the movie because I have such a hard issue with my sleeping. And right now I try not to smoke weed before I go to bed, and it just has not been working for me. So I stay up basically all night until I can fall asleep. And when I do fall asleep, I have intense dreams, and they're usually recurring dreams.
Oh
It's
yeah.
usually me trying to yeah, it's always a recurring dream. It's like me trying to escape my elementary school,
Oh my God, yeah. That's not
and
fun.
it's like an army of people, like army of like people with like it's like army people. They're just trying to get me, and I'm always just trying to escape. When I was younger, I had very intense issues with like sleep paralysis, so I would constantly be fearful of going to bed all the time. So I remember there was a time where I didn't sleep for 4 days because I just like was so scared that this one little demon would get into my body. There's this he resembled very much like the guy from is this little Asian boy from that movie with Sarah Michelle Gellar,
I,
The Grudge,
The
The
Grudge.
Grudge.
Oh no, kid.
This
Yeah, well, that
boy,
movie will do it to you. Yeah,
this boy would always try to enter my body through like my mouth, through my nose, through my eyes, through my ears. But
yeah.
anytime that happened, I would be like in a chair, like latched
Right.
down in a chair, completely like feet locked in, hands locked in.
Yeah,
The entire room is black, like you can't see anything, but like it appears like the
yeah,
way it appears. It's like I'm in third person, where like I can see behind me, and I can see the through my eyes, and it's just
yeah,
like one little light on me,
yeah,
one little light, and then like appearing through the darkness would always be this boy just trying to rip open my mouth, try to get it out. I'd be paralyzed in my like normal waking self, be
yeah,
screaming my brother's name over and over again, screaming my brother's name to the
yeah,
point where like sometimes it would just be like ah! Because like I would
yeah.
get out of the paralysis. So to
Yo,
this
that's
day now,
that's that's scarier than The Shining, man. That's
yeah,
terrifying. Yeah,
to this day now, it's been an issue for me to sleep every night,
yeah,
and this is why, for instance, a very very big reason why I got into alcohol,
yeah. And
because
then,
it helped me sleep.
yeah. And so for me, it wasn't nearly something as intense as that. Like I had recurring dreams when I was a kid, but it didn't really follow through into adolescence. And I had experienced sleep paralysis, but I like no more than 4 or 5 times in my life. So it wasn't like as big of an issue that you had, but I had the same issue in that I couldn't go to sleep just generally. It wasn't necessarily that I was scared of the nightmares that would come, but like if I just lay down in my bed, my mind just starts racing way more than it would be in my normal waking life, like interacting with people. It's like a lot calmer, and then I go to lay down and my mind starts racing. And so I used alcohol 100% just to help me sleep. And then that became a thing where I even used that as an excuse, being like, no, I'm not an alcoholic. I just drink to help me go to sleep. Like I just use it like it's cough medicine or something. But then it's
Yeah.
like, obviously that wasn't the case because I was drinking to excess, where it's, it could be like 9 p.m. and I'm blackout drunk. It's like, I'm not trying to go to sleep. But yeah, it's just interesting how even though obviously our cases are different, it's similar in that we both have a form of insomnia, even though mine is lighter. And still to this day, we are both dealing with it. It didn't go away. Like
Yeah.
what you're saying, how you need to smoke weed to help you not dream, or at least to calm down enough where you
Yeah.
don't have any nightmares. And for me, I need to constantly distract myself where I'll lay in bed and watch YouTube videos. I'll have like headphones on so I'm not distracting my girlfriend or keeping her up. And I'll just watch YouTube videos until my brain is exhausted and I pass out. And then usually doing that, I don't end up having dreams. I only have dreams when I'm not distracted or have constant entertainment going on. Then I'll have really vivid dreams, which is kind of what happened this morning waking up because it was the first night where I was away from my girlfriend and I was watching stuff, but like I don't know, like I guess I wasn't paying enough attention because I ended up having a really vivid dream about like Canada becoming Russia, like this winter apocalypse wasteland. It was very strange, but uh,
Yeah.
aside from the points, yeah, it's interesting how people can use alcohol, and it's interesting how we both never knew this about each other, but we both used it in a similar way to help us just go to sleep and have a dreamless sleep, like to get over
Yeah.
that kind of hump of this restlessness or nightmares or stuff like that. Yeah. So I guess now that I know that, I'm really sorry I had you watch The Shining. Like I recommended that as a movie that we,
Oh no, it's
but
okay. Like literally, yeah.
yeah,
Before we had a conversation, guys. Like I was saying to Joe, disclaimer: no more scary movies. Like
yeah.
I
So
can't
so
do the scary movies. Like I can't. I just cannot. However, The
not worth
Shining
it.
though, like if you can handle a scary movie, it's not like scary. Like it's not
Jump
like
scares.
Saw. It's like not like gory or anything. It's just more of like creepy and eerie. Where like I live alone, so like
Oh
I'm
yeah.
hearing things. I'm like, what is going on? Like, no, I can't. Which
It's that
is
guy.
like,
It's the waiter from the Overlook Hotel. Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, no, sorry. Anyway,
I'm
so
kidding.
we'll
I'm
we'll,
kidding.
we'll get into that, but as the audience can see, I am dressed as if I'm a little disheveled. Maybe I'm going to fly a plane. Who knows?
Who
But
knows?
Darren, if you're down, we can start talking about the movie Flight. So for those who haven't seen the
Yes.
movie Flight,
Yes.
I would say definitely come back to us later. That's the fun thing about podcasts is you can just pause it and leave it for a week and come back to it. So with that in mind, this will be a spoiler discussion because we got to talk about the movie and its themes and stuff. But
Yes.
yeah, it's one of those movies that's like directly about the subject matter of alcoholism and
It
drug
is.
abuse, but mainly alcoholism, right? And there's not that many movies that do it. Like even The Shining, which is clearly about alcoholism, that's not the bulk of the movie. That's like one element of many elements. Whereas Flight
Yeah.
is strictly about this character and the control it has over him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Continue. Continue.
I was just gonna say, so what impressions did you get watching it? Because was it the first time that you watched it recently? And yeah, just how did you
Yeah.
feel about it?
It was the first time watching it. It was like I honestly don't even think like I read the plot before I watched it. Like I think I was
Oh,
just
like you
like
didn't know what it was about.
like I
Yeah.
think guys, this it's starring Denzel Washington if you don't know. So
Yes, the one and
when I
only.
s- when I saw that I was like I need some depth. I need something. So I was like, you know what, let me just give this a shot. I honestly don't remember even like think I read the plot because if I did I kind of would remember reading it and remember like what it the plot had said.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. I just remember like I want to watch this. And at the end of the movie, tears coming down my face. I could not believe it. I was like, what did I just watch? Like
Yeah.
it took me on an emotional roller coaster where like it just made me after the movie, I was like, Denzel, like how do
Yeah.
you like I don't know what he did. It's like an alcoholic like went into his body and like he just like
Yeah.
portrayed the perfect like I don't know how to describe it. It was just a beautifully put together and how to me, it really related on the fact of, how can I put it? It's just like, it's one little thing that really balanced the whole movie for me, was the fact of, okay, guys, in the movie, there's a turning point essentially where he obviously has an issue with drinking and drugs. He is using the drugs now. Like, he was clearly wasted the night before. He's now using the drugs to level himself out, so that he can fly a plane. However, the plane, during this, he's taken drugs before. He was wasted the night before. He's now going onto the plane, driving the plane, and now he's secretly drinking on the plane. Mm-hmm. So it appears that he's not drunk, but he's clearly intoxicated. And something happens on the plane where he has to land the plane in a very, very like specific way, where later on in the movie you find out that they've done tests that so many pilots had done this simulation to land this plane, and none of them could do it, only him.
Yeah.
So that really resonated with me, because I was running restaurants my whole life, and basically I was at the top of running these restaurants my whole life. Yeah. I could run this shit like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I'll be wasted.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be drinking the whole time. Yeah. Like, yeah, I'd be drinking the whole time. Like, I could function better drinking than I would not be drinking.
Yeah.
And that part of the movie for me was like, just like he saved so many. I think out of the entire plane, I think 2 people had died, and they were just like flight attendants helping other.
Yeah, there were the 2 flight attendants and then 4 passengers. But according to how the incident report works, they just claimed it was 4 because the employees knew what they were getting into, so they don't count as far as insurance policies go, which is awful. Exactly. How they treat it that way. But yeah. So out of 203 people, only 4 passengers died. Like, that's, yeah.
Like, he saved all these people. Yeah. But then it's like, when they finish doing the test on this, he was intoxicated. He had drugs in his system. So it's like, you technically are at fault now for all these people. And that was the hard part of the movie, because you're watching the movie and you're saying that he didn't really have any part in it. The plane was just like malfunctioned somehow. It malfunctioned. Something happened to the plane. It was a mechanical thing. There was a corkscrew that was recommended to be replaced because it had gotten dwindled down, and it was recommended like a year ago, and no one replaced it. And so that's what broke, and then it just sent the plane into a nosedive. So it literally was a manufacturing issue. Yeah. And then if it wasn't him on the plane, because every other pilot tested the simulations, they all failed. If he wasn't on the plane, everyone would have died. Exactly.
Only he could have landed that plane by inverting it and doing all that crazy maneuvering that he did.
He did some crazy stuff. I was like,
watching it is insane. Like 2 movies it's in such one. A good action scene. Yeah, seriously, it is 2 movies in one. 2 movies in one. Yeah, that scene is intense. Like, there's no like parallel to it as far as like plane sequences go. But,
and like the thriller of it, it's just like the way it's filmed, everything is great. Like, Denzel makes it good. Like, he does it so good. Like, it's like I'm on the plane with him.
Yeah, he is so charismatic. He's impossible to replicate. He's like a one-of-a-kind actor. But yeah, and as far
that for me was like the big thing.
Yeah, is that sequence of him being able to do that. And in the position that he was in, or the condition he was in, and that's one of those things where, like, I've never, like, the job that I had, or the couple of jobs that I had the last 2 or 3 years that I was like in the depth of my alcoholism, was driving. So I wasn't drinking on the job for that, because obviously you should not operate heavy machinery. So Denzel doing it is bad on Denzel, but. I would still get wasted the night before, where I'm pretty sure I would still be drunk, or at least buzzed, the morning after. And then I'm driving to work, and then I'm driving these vehicles. And I did that like every day, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I would maybe have a day or 2 a week where I didn't drink the night before. But it's mostly I was just drinking until I got blackout, passed out at like midnight, woke up at 6 a.m., still feeling fuzzy, like the hangover hadn't even hit yet, and I'm driving to work, and then I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and then I'm going off driving, right? Like, it's something where it's like I should have gone to jail for it. Like, it's weird to think about. Like, obviously I wasn't drinking while I was driving, because that is like absolutely criminal, but I was being extremely risky.
So sad. That was me.
Yeah, but no, but not on the job. You weren't being paid in the middle of the day. And then
true, but I was still drinking after and then driving, which is so bad. Oh, I hate admitting that. But yeah, that was the main thing that I did. I drank and drove, and it was brutal. But continue.
And And it's like weird, like the statistics of people that die every year driving. It's like how many of it is
Awful.
related to DUIs is insane. Yeah, so we should consider ourselves extremely lucky. But
Every day.
yeah, and it's just crazy how just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. But in the movie Flight, obviously the character of Denzel Washington had that idea. He was like, well, if I can do it, then I'll do it. But it's like, it's not about if you can. Like, clearly he's a high functioning alcoholic in the movie. Like, he's able to do amazing maneuvers that nobody else could do. And it's like, part of his instinct is this flying. Like, he's been doing it since he was a kid. Like, his grandpa had a plane, right? It's like his entire life is flying. And so he's an amazing talent. And at some point, he started drinking on the job and realized he could still do it and not lose his job and his license and everything. So he kept doing it. But it's like the question never seemed to have arose, which was, should I be doing this though, right? And that's the whole journey of the movie, is taking us to a point where he finally has to actually admit that he has a problem. Because before that, he is under this illusion of control, that he has control and he just loves drinking and he just wants to keep doing it. And it's like more and more things happen where he gets to a point where he knows that he has a problem, like especially near the climax of the movie where he stays at his friend's house, embarrassed and ashamed after like trying to like go to his ex-wife's house with his son and like talk to them, and his son saying like, I don't even know you, and he's like pushing him off and stuff. He stays at his friend's house after that and doesn't drink for like 8 days, and then the trial is coming up where they're going to be asking him questions, and then he has to lie and say that he wasn't drinking. And this part, it's like I don't even want to spoil it because it's such a big impact part of the movie, but the hotel room next to him, the door didn't close properly, and he's hearing a banging sound, and he's like, is someone there? And he opens the door to realize that the lock was put, but like a window was open and the wind was kind of making a suction thing, and it was like his, kind of banging the door. And then he opens it up to find a refrigerator that isn't full of Coca-Cola, it's full of booze. And he has this moment of like, the trial is tomorrow morning, I have to be on my A game, but this power alcoholism had over him won completely. Like he had put it down. He's like, no, I'm not doing this. And then just comes right back and
The way it's
grabs it.
filmed is amazing. Yeah, the way that's filmed
Yeah.
is great. I love that scene. It's really, really nice because it gives you like, it gives you that
The
little
internal
bit, the
struggle.
moment, the little bit of hope. Remember the little bit of hope when he like, okay, so
Walks away.
essentially what the situation too of that is what I really, you're mentioning it's a friend, but it's also a friend that works with him and has his is in his defense. So this person is saying, hey, you clearly are an alcoholic, we know, but you're going to go to jail if you don't stop drinking for a certain amount of days. And if you now go on trial, you have to lie and say you didn't do this. If you do this, then you can get off free and we're good.
Yeah.
So he puts himself they put him in a hotel where he's pretty much confined to no alcohol and just living his life for the certain amount of days that he's supposed to be. It's like he's quarantining from alcohol, essentially.
Yeah, literally.
Before
That's
the
literally
trial.
what it is. Yeah. And there's a guy outside his room to make sure no one comes in or out, like with drugs.
Exactly. So it's that intense where it's like he's literally on lockdown, but then something happens where everybody knows where there's those hotel rooms that are connected by a door. Yeah. He hears banging, sees a little slit in the door, walks through. This bar now is fully, like, every hotel room has a little fridge or whatever. You're thinking it's going to be only alcohol stocked like his, but it's full of alcohol. The way it's filmed is he grabs a little bottle and he looks at it and gives it like, I'm over this. I'm better than this. Puts it down and you're like,
yeah, and it's in slow motion. He puts it down, starts walking away, leaves the screen. The camera's still slowly zooming in on the alcohol, and you're like, no, he did it. No, he's good. And then the hand just comes back and grabs it. Yeah.
Grabs it.
Man.
And from that point, it's like,
he lost.
It's like down. It's just like the room. Do you remember the room when the friends come in? After the friends come in, after he's drinking.
Yeah.
The friends come in, and the room is literally like someone let like a hog or like a pig or like a bull just in the room, and the room is just destroyed.
Yeah, there's bottles everywhere, glasses shattered. The whole place is a mess. There's things thrown everywhere. The door's like wide open. The other room, and the fridge is like ripped out of the socket and thrown. It's insane. All the bottles are gone, and they look over and there's just like blood smeared on the toilet seat, like he bashed his head. It's insane. Yeah,
and what's cool about that scene is it kind of relates again to the first point of the movie, where this is how he was able to fly the plane. So essentially, now he's so wasted that he smashes his head. He literally is like not even able to stand at this point.
Yeah.
He has to now go on trial.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do now? We got to call his friend to bring the drugs so that he can
Yeah.
sober up,
Straighten
like he
himself
did
out.
for the plane,
Yeah.
to fly the plane so that he can go do this. And he's
Operate
like,
for the trial. Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I'm cool. I can do it. Like, it'll be good. I just need that and I'm good.
Yeah.
He does
That's
that. He needs it. He does it, and he goes. It's like he sobers up in a minute.
Yeah, it's insane. And like his nose is bleeding on the elevator way down, and the guy's like, clean that up. And he's just, yeah, like it's insane. And then he goes there and he's acting as if he's completely sober. And then obviously, yeah, and then he has that moment that both of us have had, and anybody who's finally come to a place of recovery where they're like, I literally ran out of lies. I can't keep doing this. Like, this is insane. Yeah. Because it's not even about lying to other people. The idea of lying as an alcoholic is you're lying to yourself. Because, like, you can't honestly say, like, I'm an alcoholic and it has all the power over me, and that's just how I'm going to live my life. I'm going to constantly actively know that and operate. It's like we're in denial because everybody wants control. Nobody wants to relinquish control to a substance or an addiction they have. It's all about, like, oh, it doesn't have control over me. I can stop whenever I want, and I choose to keep going. And then when you finally get to a point where you can't lie to yourself anymore, that's the breaking point. And so for him, it happens at the worst time possible, obviously, but it's good because he's able to start living an honest life. Where the last time he did it was probably when he was a kid, flying with his grandpa or something, right? And then he's finally able to get back to that place to just admit, like, no, it wasn't, because the big contender of was he drinking is in the trash bin right next to the cockpit. There was nothing but 3 bottles of those little shot glasses of gin or whatever.
Yeah, the Smirnoff
and they're like,
logo.
Yeah, and they're like, was it you or was it this woman that you had been drinking with the night before? Because her blood alcohol level was also not 0. And so he had to go to court and lie about this dead person
who died on the plane.
Yeah, to say, oh yes, and throw the memory of her under the bus and say, oh, it was her that had those bottles when it was him.
That was really sad. Like, it is the scene too is like, I'm pretty sure that was the flight attendant that had helped a little boy on the plane.
Yeah, she
like on the plane,
and he's like got to throw the memory of her under the bus. It's awful. And obviously he had sexual relations with her, and to be that kind of heartless, right? Just to save your own skin it's unthinkable, but it's the place that he's at where his entire defensive team is saying that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
This is your way out, and then we're going to get you help, and then you go to therapy and stuff. But like you're just going to have to keep lying until then and say these awful, unforgivable, cold-hearted things. And he's in the courtroom, and then he has a breakdown where it doesn't happen immediately. It's really slow, where he's kind of drinking and like coughing, and he's like, "Sorry, can you say that again?" And they're like, "Was she the one who drank those bottles?" And he just can't do it. He just literally
I couldn't believe that scene. I was like,
yeah, where it finally happens, and he just breaks, and he's like, "No, it was me. I was drunk on that plane. I drank it, and actually, I'm drunk right now." And I'm drunk right now.
That part too, I'm like, he's like, I'm fucking wasted. I'm like,
I'm doing it. I'm going all in and just telling everybody. Yeah. So obviously he goes, but it's all for the better because now he's actually able to have a relationship with his son, right? And
that part made me cry. I don't know why. At the very end,
it's so good. It's so heartwarming.
I think, what does the son say? He goes, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
No, he like pulls out a book.
I'm doing a report. Yeah. He's like, I'm going into college, and for admissions, they say they want you to do a report on a person you never met. And so I want to interview you, Dad. Who are you? And like, I want to get to know you, basically. And that's them being able to actually rebuild for the first time their relationship.
That part was so powerful for me because it's really like almost like you don't know who the person is because, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when you're in a drinking state, it's not just I have to constantly be drinking. It's the state is always like you may not be wasted, but like the times you're not wasted is sometimes worse because then you need to get drunk. So you're acting not right because you're like, I need to get drunk. Or like I
Yeah,
noticed,
your priorities are completely gone. Like
yeah, like
whatever normal person you would be is just gone
it's like
because
out the
you're just a
window.
person who drinks. Yeah, so
And
you don't
that
have any hobbies, any interests. It's just drinking. Yeah.
and the scene where he goes and visits his like son and the wife and like
Yeah.
how the ex-wife and like how he reacts to that situation, I can relate to 100% because that's how I reacted to like my family acting a
Right.
certain way with me when you're thinking it's like you want them but they don't want to be around you because you're a certain way. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like
Because you're
I'm not even
innocent.
drinking
Yeah.
I'm not even drinking right now. It's like calm down, but it's like because I'm not drinking right now, I'm like my everything's heightened even more now. So now you're just like more aggressive and
Right.
extra.
More
You should be
angry.
drinking right now because maybe if you were drinking, you'd be a lot calmer. And it's like
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
start realizing all these like he was such in a different state at that time where he just thought he was like he knew everything. But then to admit it and to like admit defeat, it's like
Yeah.
you're literally getting stripped away of like your like that shield that you were carrying, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That illusion that you know what's going on and that
Yeah,
the world is a certain way and that your relationships are a certain way. Yeah. It's to finally
got
just give up
stripped.
on yeah, and just say I'm a
It's
mess, and I hope I
yep,
can talk to the people in my life, and yeah, and just where do we go
literally,
from
and it's
here?
like
Yeah.
I'm a mess. Sorry, I was a mess, and
Yeah.
the only person that can help that is me. And it's
Yeah.
really interesting when you have kids in this situation because it's like for me going through the whole thing, I had a pardon me, I have a dog, a very small dog, a little chihuahua. I had a chihuahua from when my mom passed away,
Yeah.
and that was like it for me. Like that was like the reason why I stopped drinking was because of the dog. Like I
Yeah.
would constantly be leaving the dog. I would be going out getting wasted, coming home just wasted, and like the dog just like so scared of me sometimes, and I would just feel it in the inside.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was like a son or a daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. If
It's just the
anything, I'm
feeling.
fortunate. Yeah, and I really am fortunate that I didn't have any kids with this problem, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not to place a judgment on people who are parents that were still going through it because I have uncles who are recovered alcoholics and they had kids like they weren't able to actually get to a place of recovery until they were like in their 40s or 50s,
Yeah.
and yeah, it just sucks because yeah, it's not a victimless thing. It's like you are affecting those around you. So yeah, the fact that we didn't have any kids is super fortunate. But then, like you're saying,
Yeah.
like you still had a dog and you felt terrible about how you were acting around your
Just
dog.
with
And
the
yeah,
dog. It's like the dog is alone, right? Imagine if that like they say man, a
imagine if it
dog's
was a
man's
kid.
best friend, but it's like imagine it was a child. It's like, oh my gosh. That's like
Yeah.
the dog alone is the one. That's why sometimes people don't really understand like and I think for instance, I had this really interesting epiphany with my old job. This isn't the job that I was drinking at, by the way. This is
Okay.
a job that it had no alcohol. It was great. I was sober.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I was drinking a lot at my other job. It was allowed. We were allowed to drink. It's fine.
Yeah.
But with this job, I had quit randomly because I just couldn't take the pressure of like losing my dog.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like super intense because the dog was so important to me. Like it had such a significant like purpose for me. It really changed a lot of aspects in my life. Like I got it when my mom
Yeah.
passed away, so I was there for
Yeah.
like it helped with the grieving process.
Yeah.
And then for me to stop drinking, it really that was the like the turning point for me where I was like, okay, I need to like really stop.
Yeah.
And then there was another point where it was like my job specifically, I knew that I wanted to work somewhere else and do something else.
Yeah.
But the dog is what motivated me to do that. Like if I didn't have the dog, I would just be like, eh. But the dog was like, I would go to work all the time and the dog would be by itself. So that would
Yeah.
motivate me to, we got to get out of here. We got to do more. We got to get out of here. So
Yeah. I have
when,
to be more available for my different species child, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So when I quit my job, I had went into a really bad depression because I felt
Mhm.
like I kind of just let the business down and like I was
Yeah.
just like I just really couldn't go on anymore. Like it was just like it was too much for me. Like I just couldn't do it. I
Yeah.
don't know what it was. I just could not go on anymore without the dog. Like it was just I needed the dog.
Yeah.
And I kind of definitely got the vibe from like the owners that like I kind of was like, pardon my French, like I kind of was like a pussy.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they just were like, your dog died, calm down. It's not that big of a deal.
Oh my God.
Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like that's the
You
vibe
don't
that I
screw
kind of
them.
got. And it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it doesn't no, that doesn't really it's true per se. But later on, like just a couple of months ago, and again, this happened a year ago. Just a couple of months ago, I during the whole quarantine, I had stopped using social media because again, I have like a strange thing with my like when I have in a certain headspace, I don't want to be on my phone. Like just for instance, yesterday, I was at a certain time, I was like, I need to get the work that I have to get done. But my head is killing me. I went to bed late last night. Now I have the option to just turn my phone off and let's recharge. That is like really important for me. So just the fact of like losing the dog and quitting the job and everything all at once, I definitely just felt like they thought I was weak, which is everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But just a few months ago, I went onto my old profile and I got a message from one of the owners. The owner had just said, "Hey, I just want to apologize."
Oh no! Wow! Yeah, no kidding. Oh my god.
And say like, first off, I want to say I lost my cat in a very tragic way, and it's been eating me. Like it's just like he's just basically saying that it was a really hard thing to do for the cat to pass away, and like I guess they maybe had to put it down, and he's just saying like how much he misses the cat, and apologies for not kind of supporting you and being there for you. Yeah. And for me, that was like closure. Like I always kind of felt like, oh, I don't know. I guess like
it just
I guess they did think I was a It's like I guess they did think I was a pussy. But then I got that message and I was like, oh, I feel so much more at ease now. Like I feel like I could now move on, you know? Because I really I was really just really hurt and destroyed. It was like I lost a child almost. And some people will not get that. They don't get it because they don't know my history. They don't know what I went through. Like
the context of the animal.
Yeah, like my
and
mom
just the experiences
died.
you had with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like insane. Like a lot of people's parents are just alive. Like my mom died on my graduation. So I didn't go to like prom, nothing. It was like a super tragic thing for me where people don't realize that like that's why I'm a certain way. Yeah. Right? And like even though I was running the restaurant and all these things, it just the fact of not having my dog at home, it just didn't matter anymore for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, why am I working? I don't like the dog isn't there anymore.
Yeah, there's no reason for me to go on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was doing everything for the dog, and that's why I went into a depression to kind of realize, no, you got to fight for yourself too. The dog, use the memories from the dog, use the memories from your mom to live inside you, to give you, to give you that life back. And literally, their life is like in me now. Like I had here, I'll give you guys a little quick. This is the dog here, Ponyo.
Yeah. Oh, Ponyo, that's the name.
Yeah. Wow. Ponyo. So I literally every day I wake up and I think I'm just so thankful. And like that's something from the movie that at the very end of that scene when he goes, "Let me know who you are." Like that scene, I was like, wow, I can really feel who I am now. I didn't, because when I was drinking, gone. I didn't know. Yeah. It's gone. It's like you're the person who's like leached out, gone. Yeah. And that like the message from the owner and everything, it kind of just wrapped up everything for me where I was like, I finally feel like I should be in the place I should be in. Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot to go through.
It is. It's just amazing to hear that the movie was able to get all of that out of you. And actually,
I was crying at the end.
Yeah. It's like clearly the movie had its own specific story it was telling, but I don't know if you know this about the director. It's Robert Zemeckis, and he's done several films that are dramas, but ones that specifically have happy endings. It's like he's almost known as being a sappy director. Obviously, this movie is like probably one of the darker works that he's ever done. But a recent film just came out from, now what's his name? Charlie Kaufman, who's known for doing abstract artistic works. It's a Netflix original called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And it's a very depressing movie, as you can tell from the title alone. And he makes a reference to like this character who's like in the future and he's watching a Robert Zemeckis movie and it's like really sappy and heartfelt and like it's just a good time. And he's basically saying that the main character watching this movie and loving this movie makes the main character like sappy or just like shallow or dumb or something. Like he's not as much of a hard thinker as someone who's like super deep and philosophical and stuff. And And the movie itself ends in a really depressing, hopeless way where the main character just dies and alone. Like, it's ridiculous.
Ooh.
Well, so I guess spoiler alert, whatever. But you can imagine that's probably how the movie ends, because most movies of his ends where the main character just dies hopelessly. And yeah, and it's just very interesting how, whether it's this movie Flight or other movies that are made to be emotional vessels, where sure, the movie's telling a story, but the movie's also trying to convey an emotion or trying to reach people emotionally about a given subject. Like with this one, it's alcoholism and relationships that you have with people, and the fact that it was able to bring that out in you by the end of the film, where it wasn't even about the film anymore, it was about your own personal experience.
Yeah.
One, that's just what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to make people, it's supposed to be subjective and make people feel things specifically about them. And two, what's wrong with being happy or seeing the good in the world? I just find I don't know. This is my
Yeah,
argument
man.
against Coffin. I don't know, but yeah, the world has enough tragedy and sadness in it where it's good to have movies with happy endings, or have movies with emotions, even if it gets there in a sappy way, which Flight didn't, but the director's just known for doing that. It's yeah, it's that's what makes films so good usually. It's a combination of ideas, this specific story, and emotions. And this movie Flight was able to do that, right? Because yeah,
Yeah,
it does it for me. Like
for sure.
specifically, what was I thinking of? I think it was like right before he started drinking again, like because he stopped after the crash, right? Initially, Denzel
After the
Washington,
crash.
he drank, and then as soon as
Okay.
the
Yep.
crash
Yep.
happened,
Yep.
his friend comes in. He's like, "I got you these pills. I got you this booze." He's like, "I'm not drinking anymore." And he made that a point, and he went to his cottage and threw out all of the booze that he had. He had like hundreds of dollars, probably $1,000 worth of booze. He threw it all out, and then he meets up with his friend who got him a lawyer, and he talks to the lawyer, and the lawyer says, "We checked your blood when you were in the hospital, and you were drunk, and so you're going to get charged. But since I'm your lawyer, I'm going to try to drop the toxicology report so that they can't use it in court." But just the fact that the lawyer brought that up in the first place makes Denzel immediately become defensive and angry. And he's like, because he just got over that hump, and now he's being reminded that he was an
Now it's
alcoholic,
like
or
that, and
drunk.
then it's right
And he's like,
back.
you know what? Fuck, maybe I'm just gonna go back. Yeah, and that's what he does. And then he goes to the bar, and he's like, just give me a 7 Up or a Sprite. He says something like that, and the guy says, "That's it? That's all you want?" And then he goes, "No, also give me gin," or he says something like that. And it's like, just the prompt. It's like that was like a double whammy of like, he's upset, but he's not gonna drink. And so he says, "Just give me a Sprite." And then the guy says, "That's all you want?" And he goes, "Well, since you're offering, I guess I'm just gonna
The
go all the way." And he
temptation,
gives,
yeah.
yeah. And then he
The
gives into the
temptation,
temptation.
like, really, really got him there.
Yeah. And the
Yeah, and
fact that
then
he
it's
just
like, I think it's
Well,
continue.
yeah, I was just gonna say the fact that it doesn't happen once. It's literally like he's an alcoholic. He
Yeah.
stops drinking after having a near-death experience, but he's still not able to quit it. And then he goes back to it, and then it takes until the end of the movie for him to finally quit, like, for good.
Yeah, because that's when like that girl is kind of just like his like that girlfriend he kind of has that he meets in the stairwell. That's
Yeah,
kind of when she's like, "You have a problem," because I'm pretty sure he comes back that night or something like of the sort,
yeah,
and
and he's
he's
just
in the barn with her and he's wasted. Yeah, he's like
yeah,
just it's off. It's just an off night, and
yeah,
she's like, that's when she notices like you have an issue.
yeah, and the fact that he literally, yeah, he's so drunk he like falls over like trying to get up to see her, and then the next morning he like comes out to see her because she's taking pictures, and he's like, "Hey, sorry about last night. I was a little tired." And she just like looks at him, and she's like,
Like
"What? You had like 20 bottles of beer around you. Like you were
you're
wasted out of your
wasted,
mind." And like
and
and just the look that he gives her, and he's just like, "What, do we count bottles?" Like he immediately gets like angry and defensive again about it.
it's like the perfect response
Yeah.
for an alcohol. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like was he? It's like he was an alcohol. It was amazingly done. It was just so good. It's like
Yeah.
that's a perfect response because you always think like how people act a certain way or like I don't know how to
If they get
describe it. Like
defensive about that.
they get
Like
defensive.
if they're just to be like, "Oh, you're right. I drank way too much. Like I did get really drunk." Like that's normally what I do. But because that's what he normally does, his response shows that. And she immediately knew from his defensive response, "Oh, he's an alcoholic and he doesn't
Yeah,
know it. He's denying
and
it."
from
Yeah.
like her history too, because she was like a
She's a
druggie
heroin
or
addict.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
so she knew already. Was like she
She knows
knew
what it's
she
like
wanted to
to be
get clean
addicted.
and stuff. Yeah, that even too is great to see. I love that I love the little side story of the mom. I thought that was great because you always wonder, how do people get in those situations? And it gives you a little bit of sympathy because it's really not easy. It's so hard for a lot of people. People come from all different walks of life. And that's why for me, like when I was working in the restaurant industry, I just couldn't believe how many people would just be so like negative and nasty. But it's like the world is a very, very big place. And not everybody in the world is happy. Like probably more people are unhappy than they are happy, right? And that's kind of one thing that as I'm growing up, not drinking, I realized that I'm on a different wavelength than different people because certain people will react to that the same way they're perceiving it. So if someone wants to be negative, they'll be negative right back. That's never been me, but it was me when I was drinking. And that's how I knew deep down that it's like something's off. Because now when I've been 3 years sober now, certain things, like the littlest things, I'm just like, really, what am I getting mad about? I don't have anything to be mad about. Like,
what's
it's the strangest
point?
thing.
Like if someone's being a dick to you, you go, well, they're probably having an awful day.
Yeah, always.
Like
I'm always thinking.
Yeah, instead of being like, well, screw you right back and like attacking them, like as if they were unprovoked. It's like clearly something's going on in their life that's making them miserable. So they're already suffering enough. Like why yell back at them?
They're suffering enough.
Feel sorry for them by being a dick, right? It's like they're being a dick for a reason. Yeah.
Exactly. And when you really like start to realize these things in like everyday life, it's like even yesterday, so strange. I read an article we've talked about this before, but I read an article on like why weed is legal and in certain places and how alcohol, no matter what, is always just permitted, right?
Yeah.
And it was just so interesting seeing the things. It's just because alcohol has just been basically in our system / like roots forever, and it can't be unrooted from us. But it's just so interesting. It's too deeply connected. It's just so interesting though, like how it just kills all these people and nobody cares.
And it's like well, nobody cares. That's the price to pay to get drunk, you know?
Yeah.
It's the price to pay to party. Yeah.
It's just like simple as that.
It's not worth it. It's insane.
It's so strange. It's just the weirdest thing where it's like,
no, there is a better way.
I don't. And I think that like, I'm not saying that everybody's this way, but a lot of people I think that do consume alcohol are kind of in that. They're in like a longer, like, I don't know how to describe it. Because a lot of people drink alcohol.
Yeah.
It's just more of like
the fact that people go out on the weekend to clubs and bars to get drunk. The fact that they don't go to like dance and drink a few beers and get a buzz. They don't go to get a buzz. They go to get drunk. The fact that most people do that, that shouldn't be normal. Like that's not neurologically normal. That's clear. They've due to society making alcohol so open and accessible, and due to everyone getting drunk, the fact that that's almost an initiation. That's what happened to me. It was like when I was 15, they were like, now you drink. Now you go with your friends and drink. And like I was being forced by like older kids when I went to a house party. They knew that I was in grade 10. They were like forcing me to drink like beer until I puked. The fact that that's like so normalized in society, this idea that you drink to get drunk, not like you can like dance or do or play beer pong and then you have a few beers or whatever, and that every so often you can get drunk and that's a crazy night. The fact that that's not how it is and it's about getting drunk, I feel like is this symptom of people thinking in their head, I work really hard all week long and the reward is getting drunk on the weekend. And that's my mind is calibrated to say, I am going to get drunk. I'm not going to get buzzed. I'm not going to dance. I'm specifically going to drink until I get drunk on the weekend. That's the point. That's the point of my life.
I can't believe that. Yeah. It's insane.
It's just weird that that's all of society.
What we were mentioning in the last episode, it's like the advertising and like how we're literally ingrained in us to like believe that that's okay. And it's so strange because when I was a couple years ago, there's this song. I don't know how many years ago it came out, but I couldn't believe it that it was on the radio.
What was it?
It is by, I don't know. I think it's by, I don't know who it's by, honestly. I'm going to sing it out for you. I don't know.
I'm trying to think, about who it is. Song?
It is. I'll sing you the whole song. Yeah. I'll sing you the song right now.
Okay.
Just give me a little bit of second here because I have to remember. Okay. I know the lyrics aren't going to all be right, but it's something like, I know my rent is going to be late, but something.
But I gotta get drunk.
I work my ass off, but I still
Oh yeah.
can't pay it though. But I just got just enough to get up in this club
Oh my
to
God.
have
Yeah.
a good time until
Yeah.
my time is up. Ooh, that's it. That's the song.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
says that on repeat.
Yeah. 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 That's literally
I know
insane.
my rent. I know my rent was going to be late about a week ago. I
Yeah.
worked my ass off, but I still can't pay it though. But I got just enough to get up in this club to have a good time until my time is up.
That's insane.
Ooh, like what is that?
And now
What
I'm
is
gonna be
that?
homeless. Yeah. The priority is drinking.
So you're to be homeless? Like I don't
It's like you
understand this. This doesn't make
literally
any.
need to live. Yeah. And people are prioritizing drinking.
This
Yeah.
is what they're playing on the radio.
Yeah. It's
I'm just
toxic.
like,
It's toxic as fuck. It's the same as like the fact that the majority of TV is about toxic relationships, like reality TV or just drama, soap operas, stuff like that. It
yeah,
specifically is, yeah, like only showing conflict and stuff. It's just strange. It's like we could
it's
mature as a
insane.
society if we're able to produce better content that's about people. Like so as you know, I'm like in the trying to get into the film industry. I'm like on the cusp, on the edge of the film industry, right? And I get jobs every so often. I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups in Toronto, and one specifically, a person sent out a request, and they were like a producer or something or a director, but they were like asking for someone to write something for them, a treatment, whether that's just for a short or for something that'll become a film, like a proof of concept. And they're like, I would like for like DM me if you're a writer and you can write me a story about two people in a toxic relationship. And instantly in my head, I'm like, there's a million. No, like please put out something better. Like I feel
Yeah,
like
like
stories in general, it's harder to write something nuanced. So people are just cheap and they're just like, give me toxic relationships where like if the guy's out late, then the girl will just smash plates and like attack him, and then they have sex, and then they just don't trust each other, and they're just like neurotic and just insane and lash out at each other. And it's like, bro, that's real life issues that aren't getting solved because that's all people are seeing. So it's the same thing as drinking. It normalizes it. Like
yeah, it
toxic
normalizes it.
relations, it's ridiculous. It's like we don't have enough
Especially for
problems as it is.
females. Yeah, especially for females. It's like females
Yeah, it's
almost are drawn to toxic relationships.
guys,
It's
yeah,
like
guys or girls. It's yeah, because it's like it's the same thing with the Barbie issue. It's like they're shown as this is what you're supposed to be. And then it's the same with like, oh, girls are crazy. You're just supposed to lash out and you're supposed to be with guys that will constantly cheat on you. And
it's
it's
like
like,
yikes.
bro,
No.
that's the worst of us. That should not be the normal. That should not be the bulk of us.
Yeah. And
But
sorry to
that's
just
what's
say
put out there.
females. It's a males and females is everybody. It's
It
just
yeah, yeah, it goes both
it's
ways, but the
everybody.
the dynamic of the dimorphism of humanity, it's usually guys are like more heavy set. So they're the people that will like take a beating more so the girl will lash out, but then they're the ones cheating and womanizing, but then that's okay. They're not sluts because they're guys. And so it creates this unfair dynamic. And yeah, the whole thing's insane. But it's
It's
like, hey,
awful.
it's for whatever reason, people lap it up, or at least producers lap it up because they keep producing this shit. And it's like we need
It's always
better
the same
shit. Like,
stuff. It's always the
yeah,
same
it's exhausting.
stuff.
It's like, can we not evolve as a species? Can we not mature, you know?
Oh, I
That's
completely like
ridiculous.
I think like movies for one thing, it's like it's a hard thing. That's why like I completely like for instance it's like I'm like a half and half. Like I love movies 100%, but it takes
Yeah.
like you've seen my plates. It's all movie orientated,
Yeah,
but they're
yeah, yeah,
all like it's all the good stuff like
yeah,
Natural Born Killers, Pulp
yeah.
Fiction, Dust Till Dawn, Blade Runner by Harrison Ford, Jurassic Park the first one, Indiana Jones, Hook. Like
Oh,
I'm
fuck.
not what
Amazing.
it's like why I don't get how like people are like producing the same thing over and over again for 2 hours. I'm like I'm sitting this watching this for 2 hours. I ain't got time.
It's
But
not worth
then
it.
it's like and it's like so hard for like a good something new and original to come by. But this is what I loved about, for instance, The Shining.
Yeah,
I love just the visuals aspect of it. The
yeah.
way it was filmed was like woo, 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 doo, doo, boo,
It's
boo. Like
golden. Yeah.
take notes, people,
Well, that's what,
because
yeah. Oh, actually,
like
wait. Okay, so this is a very strange connection here. This is one of those like 6 degrees of separation thing. At the beginning of the podcast, we were talking about like sleep paralysis, among other things.
mhm.
With The Shining, which we will get into, but that movie is very peculiar in very subtle ways. And clearly it's just for production style or whatever. It's not because it's actually conspiracy theories are everywhere, right? But people love to jump to conclusions. There was a documentary called Room 237 that came
Room
out, and it was about
237.
in the film. That's where that Rodden lady is living in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
yeah, and for whatever reason, this documentary comes out by these people who are like really good filmmakers. It's a very stylish documentary, and it's very good at storytelling and stuff. And they just interview like a bunch of whack jobs about conspiracy theories about the movie. And then a year or two later, the same filmmakers make a second documentary called Nightmare or The Nightmare. And it's about sleep
okay.
paralysis and these people that have been suffering it with it their entire lives. And they reenact these people's nightmares. And so it's almost like half movie, half documentary. And it's insane. And
Oh,
it's just very strange that the two are connected. Because in my mind, when I think of sleep paralysis, I think of that documentary. And then I also think that those filmmakers that made that documentary also made a documentary about The Shining. And so even though there's no sleep paralysis in the movie The Shining, for whatever reason, my brain is linked with those two things just because of the documentarians, I guess.
okay. I
But
gotta check that out. The Nightmare. That's what it is.
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nightmare. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I think it came out in 2012, so it was a little while ago. But yeah, if you were to
Like,
look up just the Nightmare documentary, you'll get the trailer for it, and then you can find out where it is.
yeah,
But
cool.
yeah, I would not recommend Room 237 though. Even though it's good, it spreads a lot of misinformation. Like they're
Okay.
saying like Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing because he's the only one that could do it, and then he
Mm-hmm.
flaunts about it in The Shining because you see like, oop, you see the boy, um, wearing an Apollo 11 sweater, and he's like playing with a little train, and like little hints like that all over the movie The Shining. And it's
Easter
like, bro,
eggs.
no, it's a coincidence. Yeah, but it's not Easter eggs. Come on. The moon landing happened on the moon. It did not happen in a Hollywood basement.
The East.
But
It's
anyway,
like
yeah, that's
holding
what a lot of people believe.
holding flags up.
Yeah,
Yeah, trust. The conspiracy theories go hard. Like it's
yeah.
insane.
It's just because people love Stanley Kubrick. It's like The Shining is not as amazing as they say, but it's amazing in other ways. He's not secretly threading stuff everywhere because I've watched the movie like at least 10 times. It's just
Not
a good
me.
movie. It's just
Not
it's slow
me.
paced. Yeah, and it stops getting scary once you see it enough times. It starts getting goofy because like came out in 1980, so some of the effects don't really hold up if you watch it enough times. But yeah,
To me, it
just
was
one of
still
those.
pretty like. It's because I hadn't seen it in so long. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, 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 true.
For
But anyway,
me.
okay, so for the audience out there, we're actually going to be saying goodbye, and we're going to talk about The Shining in the
Bye.
next episode. So yeah,
Yes.
thanks for being here, and get ready for a review of The Shining, which will be coming out a week from now. So we'll see you
Yes.
guys then.
Yeah, it
All
was a
right,
pleasure. Take it easy, guys.
bye
Bye.
bye.